Hello Year 10, and this is the first of your whole class feedback for your home learning tasks. This video is going to cover week 1 of this work, which is to do with the animal and plant adaptations work. Hope you're all keeping well and that everybody is safe and is getting used to the home learning. As ever, if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to ask, check on anything, then please do get in touch via Teams, the chat on Teams, or via email. That's also fine. Okay, so just to go through some of the feedback, a couple of common errors that I've picked up both previously and from some people's sort of work or ideas. A couple of things just to bear in mind, as you can see there. One is to do with predators and prey both needing to adapt in order to the idea of them surviving through their adaptations. Okay, and the second thing is to do with plants having both inbuilt adaptations, okay, as well as being able to respond to attack, and using both of those ideas in order to survive. Okay, the second thing is the Educate quiz that I set for you. Thank you to everybody that has completed that. It is still available for you to do, so please do go and have a look at that if you haven't already. Please go and check your score. I have fed back on there briefly, but you can go and retry any of the questions that you would like to do to reinforce any aspect of that. Okay, the third thing is the feedback on the plant adaptations questions. There were 3 sets of questions that I set you: core, challenge, or super challenge. And over the next few slides on this video, I'm going to go through the answers for that. So you can skip ahead to that, or you can pause, whatever you want. I'm going to talk through the dirt activities in just a moment. Okay, so the dirt activities first of all. So the consolidation tasks are for you to use this YouTube walkthrough video to help with your answers to the plant adaptation questions. Now, if you have attempted those, you can go back and you can mark those. Obviously, the answers were on the PowerPoint that I provided, but you may need a little bit of explanation, or you might want to go back and have a go at one of the harder questions, and then use this video to go through the answers. The second part of your consolidation is to complete section 7.1 on the Seneca course for this, the Combined Science Higher Biology. Okay, that will help consolidate this understanding. The develop task for you is to describe, as it says here, describe an experiment that you could carry out in order to investigate how plants adapt and respond to different abiotic conditions. So if you recall, you would have looked at a few weeks ago now the differences between biotic and abiotic conditions. And abiotic conditions, things that, well, I'm not going to give you too much here, but obviously things that you can investigate. So I'd like you to try and look at an experiment that you could actually conduct easily at home to investigate that. So you need to remember in any experiment to identify the variables that you're going to be investigating, and explain how you would ensure that your experiment, that your test is accurate and is fair, and the sort of results that you would expect to get from it. And then your stretch task, for those of you that would like to push this a little bit further, okay, is to just carry out some additional research. And one particularly interesting aspect of adaptations is around something called Darwin's finches. These are things that Charles Darwin investigated on his Beagle voyage. Okay, and so I'd like you to do, if you're interested in finding out a bit more, is to produce a short presentation on the findings. So just a PowerPoint would be fine, on the experiments, the investigations that he carried out and what he found. Okay, and you can submit that to me via the Teams chat on our group page. Okay, so let's go on to the questions for the plant adaptations. So the first part was I'm going to go through the core, the challenge, and the super challenge in turn. So you may want to skip ahead or to the relevant one. Okay. So starting with the core, which questions that you had. These were two questions. State the adaptations that help marram grass live in dry soil, and about the adaptations that help it survive in windy conditions. So the things that you would have wanted to pick out, okay, are things such as that the leaves of the marram grass are long and thin. They're sort of spiky, and the reason for that is to reduce the surface area and therefore the water loss. Okay, it's important not just to identify the adaptation, but to explain what impact that has. Okay, that the leaves are rolled. Okay, that the pores are on the inside, so this prevents water loss. Sorry, these are all for question 1. I should be pointing out. There is the waxy layer, okay, which we know all leaves have a waxy layer that's on the outside, okay, and that prevents water loss. And then, of course, its deep root system allows it to absorb water. So all of those are adaptations that help it live in dry soil, okay. So question 2, the windy environment. So we've got a few things here that explain how that helps it survive. So the long root, which anchors the grass into the ground so it doesn't blow away. The leaves don't get caught in the wind. They're long and thin, so unlike sort of some leaves which would be buffeted by the wind. And then they're rolled up as well, as we've pointed out already, so that any water is lost from the leaves won't be blown away by the wind. So that water is kind of maintained within the plant. Okay, so those were your 2 answers for the core questions, which would have got you full marks. Okay, for the challenge questions, okay, so we had 2 questions about, or 1 question about pine trees and cactuses having similar adaptations to their leaves and why they are able to, the similar adaptation works in 2 different environments. So this is trying to develop our knowledge and our understanding of specific adaptations, but applying them into different aspects. And then looking at why the dandelion isn't well adapted for living in the desert. So kind of looking at the adaptations that a dandelion has and why that would not be good for a particular condition. So question 3, question 1 of the challenge. So there's not much water in the desert, and so spines of the cactus aid in reducing the amount of water loss from the cactus. Even though it's cold where the pine tree lives, the water freezes in winter, so it cannot absorb winter. So preventing water loss by having needles is an advantage. Okay. So there's 2 similar adaptations. They've both got the pines, the spikes, those kind of things, but very different conditions. And then looking at the dandelion, so the dandelions aren't well adapted for the desert because they don't have those long roots that we've already mentioned, so therefore they would easily blow away. They've got no protection against predators, okay, and all their seeds would all just be blown away in the wind. They would not have any kind of, there's no protection for them at all. Okay, moving on to the final part, the super challenge. Okay, so 2 questions here. Suggest a reason why flowering plants tend to reproduce more in the warmer summer months. And then looking at the acacia tree, it has a very long taproot. Okay, explain how this adaptation helps it to survive on the African savanna. Now we obviously need to know a little bit about that. Okay, so first of all, the flowering plants. So we know that we can understand that they tend to reproduce more in the summer months, as the production of a flower would take a lot of energy. So we're applying our knowledge now of not just adaptations, but also things like photosynthesis and that kind of thing, okay, and bioenergetics. We're pulling in some understanding from some of our other topics. It would take a lot of energy, so a lot of sunlight would be needed to produce food for this. Also, flowers are for the purpose of pollination, and there are more flying insects in the warmer summer months. Okay, so really we're using our general understanding and knowledge from other subjects, from other topics, sorry, to be able to answer this question. So the second part is the Acacia Tree. So it has this long tap root, which is basically how it reaches the water. Okay, it helps it survive in the African savanna, as it rains there only every few months and very dry. Means that it can get to the water supply deep underground where it is cooler and not evaporated by the hot sun. Okay, so quite a straightforward answer to a question that may stump us a little bit, because we may not know exactly what they're trying to ask us. Okay, so those are the three questions. Just going back to our whole class feedback form. So as I said, please make sure you go through, check the Educate quiz if you've not done it, or if you want to go back and retry any questions. Go through those plant adaptation questions. Look at Seneca, and then the develop and stretch tasks are there for you as well. Any questions, then do please get in touch. And stay safe, and I will speak to you again soon.